Let's talk about your company. Tell the folks about your company.
Okay, so I'm Security Consulting Solutions. We consult in a number of different aspects, whether it's school security, hospital security. We go out and we do threat, vulnerability, and risk assessments. And now recently I'm excited to have partnered up with Apollo 3, which is a networking security company located out in Zelienople, working with good people like Bob Bazzelli, Robert Bazzelli. And we've gotten together and we have found a way. Schools are very much so in the need of network security professionals.
Right.
You know, there's a vulnerability there. And they also have a need for video surveillance, which, as you saw in the Utah video shooting, it was CCTV, closed circuit television monitors and cameras that ultimately led to the capture of this 22-year-old. So we're finding a way to bring the network security so that you have a secure network into the schools, coupled with the video surveillance security, as well as their locks, alarms systems as well. If that's not secure, it's very easy to hack into the network, open up certain doors, look at certain cameras and things like that, which we don't think of. Instead, at schools, we think of protecting critical information. When I say critical information, it's information about kids' school, where they live, phone numbers, names, and things like that. So that's an exciting thing that just happened with me over the last couple of months, is partnering up with another professional organization, Apollo 3. So as we get that on their way, we're still looking at installing some cameras here and there. I try to stay away from that anymore. I've since retired or gone into a semi-retirement position, and now I'm doing a lot of consulting work. So.
Well, definitely, this is where your expertise comes in. Being a former Secret Service person, and you actually spent time protecting retired, of course, from the presidency, Ronald Reagan. And back many years ago, matter of fact, I'm having dinner with a friend who was with me on that very amazing day many years ago when I was 21 years of age. Actually, we're having dinner tomorrow night. But I interviewed Ronald Reagan. And I remember how it really went down. It was the advanced people of Secret Service who happened to be here checking the perimeter, if you will, of where he was going to land and where he was going to speak. And they heard Rosalind Carter on the air with me that I had just done an interview. And they said, well, I heard that she wasn't doing well. How would you like to be with Ronald Reagan, you know, Governor Reagan? I said, absolutely. But then I started to ask them how they go into an area. Now, this was many, many years ago. So obviously your job is to send an advance team to kind of, you know, check the perimeter, see what's going on, talk to certain people, get a lay of the land. So did this guy, Charlie Kirk, not have any of that? Or no advance team, so it would have been easier for this person to be able to do that? Because if it was a president or a person in a position to have Secret Service, they would have really known the landscape a whole lot better. So what I'm going to say in our final segment is what you all do now is more important than ever, because there's not enough layers of protection. If he would have had that Secret Service, the protection, the advance team, there's a better chance that this doesn't happen. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, and let me try to unpack. There's a lot of information there. Going back to Reagan, you just brought back a lot of good memories. I had the fortune to meet Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, when he was out in Palm Springs. He lived out there after he got out of the White House, and I took care of his property. I engineered and designed and installed security systems around his property to fit unique situations that he would often encounter. And I got the chance to go in and meet him. And I'll tell you that story someday as well. Back to, you know, we move forward to today's era, and where has protection gone? Back then, when Ronald Reagan was the president, we didn't have metal detectors and magnetometers for people to go through. And that shot was taken by Hinckley, who was right outside at the arrival point and the departure point of the motorcade. And since then, the Hilton, in which he was shot out in front of, they have built a vestibule, if you will, for a vehicle to pull into, so that when the president gets out of the vehicle or enters into the vehicle, you can't see it. That's the most vulnerable point of attack for a president from our perspective at the arrival and the departure sites, because we have known arrivals and known departure sites. Let's leap forward to Charlie Kirk. That point in which he was sitting is the same location that everyone sits in. They didn't change up a routine or anything like that, and this is no fault of his security. I'm just saying that's the position where guests would come in and they would speak from that same spot. Now, with respect to Charlie Kirk's security detail, he has 6 people that was with him, coupled with some local police departments that were mixed in the crowd and that. And then obviously you eventually saw video footage of this subject, this ant-sized subject up on the roof, which led law enforcement to go to the CCTV and capture a person running across the rooftop and then jumping and scooting along. But he does not get that security unless it's paid for by him or his organization.
Okay.
And so the level, if the threat came in, and he's had some pretty serious threats. If you've listened to, I was just listening to Donald Trump Jr. on the way in this evening or this afternoon, and he had mentioned that there have been credible threats in the past, but their point is, we don't care. We've got to move on. This movement has to continue. And Charlie knew that. Now, whether this particular threat was known ahead of time, that there was a shooter there, that's still yet to be known, and that's not coming out yet in the investigation.
Okay.
As we saw with the vehicle, or I'm sorry, the Mustang vehicle that he drove there, and the weapons, and some video footage from door cams from the TMZ, and little things like that are starting to surface, and we'll get more of that as the investigation unfolds.
One more segment, and this is where it gets interesting. Basically, from when the shot was fired, how they put the timeline together, matched up the visual, and eventually his father turned him in. But what the process is when it comes to these security systems is almost impossible. Even if you are able to pull off a horrific crime, as we saw with the murder of Charlie Kirk, more times than not, because of the layer upon layer of security, you will be apprehended. That's next with John Hudson here at the Club at Shadow Lake. Stay with us.